It was the kind of bitter winter afternoon that made people walk faster, heads down, collars up. The Chicago air was dry, sharp, and unapologetically cruel. The sidewalks of the Magnificent Mile buzzed with movement, executives rushing out of high-rise towers, tourists wrapped in scarves capturing selfies, and delivery bikes weaving between cabs. It was business as usual. Inside the Marlowe, a fine dining restaurant known for its $300 steaks and rooftop skyline views, sat Alexander Reed. At 41, Alexander was a self-made tech billionaire, once a prodigy, now a regular on magazine covers. He was dressed immaculately, tailored charcoal suit, a Rolex peeking from beneath his sleeve, and the faint smell of cedarwood cologne lingering around him. The world envied him. Success, after all, looked good on paper. But if you watched closely, you'd see the emptiness in his eyes. He didn't eat much. He rarely did anymore. Life had turned mechanical. Wake up. Meetings. Strategies. Profits. Sleep. Repeat. He pushed his filet mignon aside. Half-eaten. Barely touched. His focus was on the stock market app on his phone, monitoring dips and spikes that somehow meant more than the meal in front of him. Then, something shifted. A soft tap came from the glass. Not loud. Gentle. Human. He turned. A girl stood outside the window, her breath fogging the glass. Her face was thin, her clothes ill-fitting. One of her shoes had a hole in the front, exposing a dirty sock. But it wasn't her appearance that caught him, it was her eyes. Big. Honest. And full of something he hadn't seen in a long time, raw courage. She mouthed something. Alexander couldn't hear her. He raised an eyebrow. She hesitated, then entered the restaurant. The maitre d' tried to intercept her, but she slipped past. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, standing near Alexander's table. Her voice trembled, but her gaze stayed steady. "Can I eat your leftovers?" Time stopped. The dining room grew quiet. A homeless girl asking a billionaire for his scraps. It was a scene out of a movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was real life. And real life just knocked on Alexander Reed's soul. Alexander blinked. He could have said no. He could have waved for security. But something inside cracked. A dormant part of him stirred. He slowly stood up and walked to her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she said. "Lily Grace." He nodded. "You don't need leftovers. You need a hot meal. Come. Sit with me." She hesitated, unsure. This wasn't something that happened. Especially not in places like this. But something about the man felt safe. The maitre d' looked horrified. "Sir, with all due respect, this isn't." Alexander held up a hand. "It is now. Bring another plate. Fresh meal. Whatever she wants." They sat across from each other. A billionaire and a homeless child. Two strangers. Two worlds. One table. As the food arrived, Lily ate slowly. Carefully. As though the food might vanish if she wasn't gentle. She didn't gobble. She didn't beg. She thanked the waiter each time with a smile that melted hearts. Alexander watched, wordless. The room murmured around them, but he heard nothing else. Finally, he asked, "Where are your parents?" She looked down. "My mom died last December. Pneumonia. We were living in a car. My dad left a few weeks later. He said he'd be back, but he never came." "I'm sorry," Alexander said. "It's okay," Lily replied quickly. "I'm not mad at him. I think he just broke. Grief is heavy. The words were too wise for someone her age. Too knowing. But there was no bitterness in her tone. "Where do you sleep?" he asked. "Depends. Sometimes the shelter. Sometimes a heated subway station. There's this one guy, Frank, he lets me sleep under his hot dog cart when it's parked. And school? I go when I can. Some days I'm too hungry to think." She looked him in the eyes. "But I'm okay, really. Sometimes people are kind. Sometimes, like today." Alexander stared at his plate. Something burned in his throat. He was a man who dealt in code, algorithms, and valuation models. But none of those prepared him for this moment. "Lily," he asked gently, "if someone gave you everything you needed, food, clothes, school, a home, what would you do?" She smiled, not hesitating. "I'd make sure no kid ever had to eat leftovers again." Alexander didn't respond. He couldn't. His chest ached. That night, he didn't go home. He drove aimlessly around the city, retracing his childhood in his mind. He had grown up in poverty, too. A trailer park. A single mom who worked 3 jobs. He had worked hard to escape it. And in doing so, he had buried it. Forgotten it. But Lily's voice had pulled it back out. He remembered cold nights. Empty fridges. Teachers who looked away. Lily was him, years ago. Only braver. The next morning, Alexander returned to the Marlowe. Lily was gone. He searched the nearby blocks. Soup kitchens. Shelters. Nothing. He offered a $10,000 reward to anyone who could help find her, discreetly, without press. But she had vanished like a whisper in the wind. Still, he couldn't forget her words. "I'd make sure no kid ever had to eat leftovers again." Alexander began to change. Subtly at first. He quietly donated millions to homeless shelters, restructured food distribution systems, and started a scholarship fund under a new foundation, the Lily Grace Initiative. He funded mobile clinics, built transitional homes for teens, and began speaking about homelessness, not as a charity, but as a human obligation. People noticed. Media outlets asked questions. Was this a PR stunt? A political move? But Alexander ignored them. He didn't need applause. He needed to make it right. 2 years later, during the opening of the 3rd Lily Grace Youth Center, a girl walked up to him after the ribbon cutting. "Hi," she said with a quiet smile. Alexander turned. She had grown taller, her hair neater, her eyes still the same, but brighter. "Lily?" he asked. She nodded. "I got placed in foster care through one of your programs. The woman who took me in is amazing. She lets me read before bed, cooks pancakes on Sundays. I go to school now. Real school. And I'm good at math." Alexander was speechless. "You know," she added, "I was scared that day at the Marlowe. I thought I was going to be thrown out. But you saw me." He knelt down. "You saved me, Lily. Not the other way around." She handed him a folded letter. Inside was a drawing of 2 people sharing a plate. Below it, in her handwriting, "Kindness is never wasted. Thank you for choosing me." In the years that followed, Lily became more than a name. She became a symbol of hope. She graduated high school with honors. Then college on a full scholarship funded by the very initiative named after her. She founded Plate and Promise, an organization that feeds and educates homeless children across North America. And every year, on the anniversary of that fateful day, she and Alexander dined together. Not at the Marlowe, but at community centers, with children who once asked the same question Lily did. "Can I eat your leftovers?" But now, there are no leftovers, just shared meals, shared stories, and shared hope. We often think life changes through grand gestures or billion-dollar projects. But sometimes, it starts with a whisper, a simple question from a brave heart. What Lily did wasn't just ask for food. She asked someone to see her. To care. To act. And in doing so, she didn't just change her story, she rewrote his. And maybe, just maybe, ours too.